happy to dive in and talk about my journey. It was kind of non-linear and pretty exciting, and it kind of got me into a job that I love very much. So definitely
Sweet.
happy to talk about it. Yeah.
Well, Brandon, if you could start one for us that don't know, what is your official title with Apple, and just kind of tell us what your job specifically is.
Absolutely. Yeah, Apple loves their fancy titles, so I get to tell people, friends and family about this all the time, try to explain it. But I'm a software integrity engineer on the camera and photos team at Apple Corporate. Um, so that is also known as software QA or software testing.
Gotcha. All right, so let's just get right into it. What kind of led you to find this career? What kind of experiences did you have before you found Apple, that really kind of pushed you into the spot that you're in now?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like most of you guys, I think it was really hard for me to kind of figure out I'm going to do a degree and it's going to put me in a career for the rest of my life, and trying to make that decision was quite difficult for me. I'm someone who has a lot of different interests and passions, so it felt really difficult to like pigeonhole myself into like one specific thing, and especially when you're focusing on a degree that costs money and time. So I wrestled with that. I tried a bunch of different things, and ultimately it was my family that kind of said, "Hey, you're really great at technology. You know, that's kind of the thing that gets you excited, whether it's a sound system or a TV or the latest tech and phones, smartphones, whatever." So that definitely sparked a passion for me. And so I went to college for management information systems at Oklahoma State, and that kind of was going to push me towards a cybersecurity background. So I was really interested in the security and privacy and encryption and things like that. So that was kind of plan A. And then while I was finishing up my degree, I got a job at the Apple Store, and that got me right into testing, doing troubleshooting on the Mac and the iPhone, and working with our customers. And that was just fun to be able to fix stuff and to, troubleshoot the stuff. And it was actually then that I started to figure out that there was a different path that could be possible. The Apple Store provides career experiences. So I actually got to come out to Cupertino, California for 2 5-month stints, and you get experience working at Apple Corporate alongside actual corporate employees. And that was what got my foot in the door. And then I got hired onto the video apps team. That was my first career at Apple, my after the retail. And then now I just ended up on the camera and photos team very recently this year. So that's kind of how I got here.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned you go to OSU, but you actually end up getting a job based off where you worked while you were going to school, more
Exactly.
so than the
Absolutely.
degree was after. Can you
Mhm.
kind of talk about how maybe your college experience or your degree either played into your career now or it didn't play in really at all? Can you kind of just dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was very open to just trying different things in college because I had so many different interests and passions. I remember I ran the sound at my church, so I thought I'd be an audio engineer, like a musicologist or something like that. And then like I thought medical would make a lot of money, so I tried to do like a cardiac sonography program for a semester, and I think I failed my 600 and whatever muscle test. It didn't go very well, so decided to back out of that. And you know, I thought music was a thing too at one point. I was involved in music and art in high school, and thought that could be a fun way because it was my passion. It was the thing I loved the most, and I kind of talked myself out of that one too. But I was just not afraid to try and just to try to figure out what made sense for me. And I think what was really exciting is like I found a degree that was extraordinarily interesting to me. It was something I could see myself really enjoying and diving deeper into, and I got the degree. But then realized I wasn't locked into that specific thing. That was always kind of a fear of mine. Like, I'm going to be stuck in this for 60 years, and you'll find that quite often in the real world. You see people with all kinds of different degrees and experience, and then they can jump careers just based on where their heart takes them, what excites them when they get up in the morning. So I think that's just good advice to think about in that context. Like, don't be afraid to try to do different things, and don't feel like you're stuck. You're going to be able to jump through a really exciting career, and there's nothing stopping you from that.
For sure. I know earlier today you mentioned that photography was one of the big things that kind of propelled you into Apple
Mhm.
and kind of helped you find your way. Can you kind of go into your background about what you did photography wise,
Mhm.
how that was kind of almost like a niche project that you did on the side, or
Yeah,
kind of how you worked, and then how that helped transition into Apple.
absolutely. So the first career experience I did was more on the hardware test engineering side of things. So that's actually hands-on with new hardware. You're building a hardware lab, you're testing um, that kind of stuff. And that was really exciting to see. I realized that if I were to pursue that path, it was going to be, a lot more programming and engineering and, kind of going up against the smartest coders in the world. I was like, man, this is gonna be hard. But then I kind of took a step back. I was like, this is Apple. There's 100 things I could do at Apple. Photography was a big passion, and I've spent over 10 years on that just as well as I've spent at Apple. So, I started thinking, it's like, man, that'd be really fun. So I could get into like testing like the cameras and the photos, or I could, you know, you just look at Apple and you see cameras and photos, it's like a big deal. Like it's like one of their favorite things right now. So I kind of thought that could be the path. That could be what gets me in there. And so I've been doing portrait photography for 10 years, landscape, street photography. I usually have a small camera with me. I think people are all camera shy. No one thinks they look good in front of a camera, but I like to kind of get past that and kind of play with the real personalities and their real smiles and capture their who they are. So that's the most rewarding side of that for me, but also just capturing landscape and street photography, things like that. Um, while I have a camera with me or just a phone in my pocket, there's always kind of a different way to look at the world, and that's kind of what.
Yeah, I'm curious because I see all of these, iPhone commercials where it's like the camera is the big deal. Like we're now shooting movies, like short movies with them, and I was always like, well, Brandon's probably like in love with that camera. Like, do you even have to carry a professional camera around because now you've got an iPhone on you,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So that always seems pretty cool, and we'll kind of dive into that here in just a little bit whenever we start to talk about what your career qualities are. But I've got a personal question of mine. So being in college and going through your degree path, you kind of mentioned it earlier. There might be some times where you were intimidated by what the skills of other people are, like when you were talking about the coders and how you're going against some of the best of the best. I know in my experiences in college, there's a few things that I look at and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to learn how to do that. And I might shy away from it. But truth be told, you can learn how to do it. It's just a matter of how much time you're willing to put into it. And if you're willing to maybe go the extra mile to learn it. Could you kind of speak? Oh, did we lose him again? I think we lost him again. Oh no.
Looks like it.
Oh no.
Think about technology, it's wonderful when it works.
Yes, yes.
So while we're waiting, I'm gonna put in the chat a little poll like who has an iPhone.
That'll work. Are you there? I see you. You there? You good?
Can you hear me?
Yep, yep. I got you again.
Switch
Okay.
cameras. It should be better now.
Alrighty. So I'm just gonna kind of start from the beginning, so the recording's good. But essentially, going through school and stuff, you have different types of challenges that you might not be able to think you're going to be as good at as somebody else.
Yeah.
There's tasks that I've been given where it's like, I don't think I'll be able to do that. But truth be told, you spend the right amount of time on something and you actually put, energy and focus into this one thing, you're actually pretty good at it. Could
Yeah.
you maybe describe a time, whether it was in school, while you were at Apple, where you're just looking at these guys and you're like, there's no way I'm able to do it. And obviously now it seems to be you're doing just fine. So
I think it's I'll kind of double back to like the journey in college where I was trying different things, figuring things out, kind of allow that time to happen if you're early in your college career, because that's super important to just figure it all out, take that time. But I think there is going to become a time where you have to kind of dial in the focus just a little bit more, and I think I have a lot of friends that are like, I'm going to do snowboarding, I'm going to do photography, I'm going to do pickleball, like whatever they're like every week there's a new thing, right? And I think if you can kind of focus in like, what am I really good at? What do I really love? What can I be better at than anyone else? Like if you really put in that time, like you said, I think, if I were to pick up guitar tomorrow, I'm not going to be good, and I'm not going to be good for 3 or 4 years. I have to put in the time
Mhm.
to get good, right? And I think that's important. Like when you get into the career and you're in an 8-hour panel interview at Apple, you know, you have to bring passion and expertise to the table, and you have to bring, willingness to learn and a humility to like know what you don't know and know kind of path to figure out what you need to know to
Mhm.
to get to get to the career, to get the thing you're wanting. So yeah, focus. I think diving in and just being okay that things take time. It takes time to figure it out, and it takes time to get really, really good at things.
Mhm.
But yeah, going up against, you know, anyone at Apple, I kind of had like imposter syndrome for a while. I was like, am I
Yeah.
really allowed to be here? Like I have badge access to that building. Like that's crazy. But
Yeah, yeah. I remember I was having an experience, and being a journalism major, you're not super big on the tech side. It's a lot of asking questions and learning how to write. And I was taking a class, and one of the guys was like, "Yeah, I learned how to code in Python the other day," and I was like, "That can't be that hard." And I opened it up, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is another world that I've never even looked at." But it's not really that hard to do. It's just if it's a matter of how much time you're willing to spend and stuff like that. So
by that is like with code is like it's a new language. You're learning
yeah,
Spanish, and that's not easy. But
no,
you can definitely put in time and figure it out.
yeah, exactly. No, that's very true. So now let's kind of dive a little bit more into the Apple side of things. Apple is big corporation. What are kind of some of the misconceptions that people are like, oh, I don't want to go work for big tech or big corp? Maybe what's some misconceptions that you've noticed working with Apple that people think about this company when in reality that's just not what happens?
Yeah, it is big, and there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of nuances there. But I think I chose Apple because I've always been passionate about the technology, the innovations that they create, and also their priorities. They care about the environment, they care about privacy, innovation. Um, so those are things I could get behind. And I think once I got in the door, even on the retail side, they really care about their people, and they put a lot of time in investing in their people. Like the training I had to go through on the retail side just to talk to customers and to fix problems, like was
Mhm.
enormous, right? And it's a culture thing that I really appreciate about Apple. And then I think later on we're gonna get into like work-life balance, but I think they really prioritize that. You're in this industry, you're in this building, you're moving 1,000 miles an hour, but at the end of the day, you get to go home, you get to be with your family, and
Yeah.
find that balance for
No.
yourself and what that looks like. And that's something I value now. My weekends matter to me. I want to go hike and snowboard and do what I need to do. So
Yeah. Do you keep up with your photography work having worked at Apple? Are you still doing that kind of as a side gig or
yeah,
are you
so
just
less on
strictly
the
Apple?
gig side. I do paid work every now and then when the spirit moves me, but it's not something I'm doing every weekend like I was before.
Yeah.
It is still a passion. It's something I'm still doing. I have 3 or 4 photo shoots that I took very recently that I'm working on editing. So
Uh-huh. There
it's
you go.
also something I get to do for fun. Just like I was just in my cousin's graduation, so I did his graduation photos with his friends. They did a master's program for 5 years, and I got to capture them celebrating. And
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's so important that people realize like it's so oversaid. Have fun with what you do. But in truth, if you can find a reason to love what you do, it
yep,
makes doing it 1,000 times easier. It's really
yes,
just a matter of finding what you love and spending that time, like you were mentioning earlier, just really digging into the truth about how you feel about things and finding different experiences.
yep.
So, Brandon, let's go right into now with the Apple business. What is the kind of the coolest thing that you've been able to work on? What are you working on recently? Just kind of go into your experiences now.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the very first thing I did when I got to the corporate side was I was on the video apps team, and that's like Final Cut Pro. If you're familiar with that, it's a software that's used to edit movies. It's one of the industry leading video editing softwares that is out there right now. And we worked on bringing that to the iPad. So, it wasn't just a one-to-one. We did it, it's on the smaller screen. Like we re-engineered it from the ground up to work on a smaller touch first interface. And I was really proud to work on that. It was a really exciting project with a lot of new innovations and things like that to make it very powerful, very user friendly. think that's something that's happened very recently is like we have these really powerful Mac computers, but now we have these really powerful tablets that are this thin. You hold it in your hand and you're editing very professional movie. And also interfaces in a way that like you can have like something like 4 phones recording video at the same time, different angles, and then that gets fed to the iPad, and then you go right into the editing bay. Right from there, you have your 4 different multicam videos all in your hands right there. And then you can port everything you have on the iPad over to the Mac for more of a professional final polish on that.
Yeah.
So just Apple's ecosystem, the way these devices work together, kind of made it a really fun project and a really exciting one just to see pushing the limits of what is possible on such a small device, but also making it more accessible, making video editing accessible to guys like you. And you could go buy an iPad as a student and you're off to the races. You don't need a professional camera or a huge computer display or anything like that.
Yeah, no, the portability of having an iPhone, iPad, and being able to work on that stuff is very useful. Might I add, editing projects all the time, spending time, doing film and stuff. It has been very useful to say the least. Okay, so what kind of photography skills that you had in the past have kind of helped you develop as in your role in software integrity and engineer?
Yeah. I think there's, it's like anything else. I consider myself an expert in the field. I've spent time really understanding the nuances and the details, and whether it's how to operate a camera in manual mode or how to color grade and edit my images to a way that, I personally love them. It's my own style. And, you can look at my photos like, wow, yeah, that's good. And you have to ask yourself, well, why is it good? So I can kind of get into all the little reasons why someone might look at a photo and think, wow, that's great. That's really interesting. And I think it's really fun to be on the kind of the expert side of things when it comes to Apple, because we have a very wide user base. There's people like, there's probably people in the audience right now who are like me, that like photography, that like taking pictures and whatever. And then there's, our grandma who doesn't know what an iPhone is or why she needs to have one. And but grandma can pick up the phone and take a really high quality picture, just like someone who knows what they're doing. Like I can take a picture and put it through my edit workflow and end up with my result, my very high professional result. And then, so Apple kind of makes these decisions for a wide variety of users. And I'm kind of behind the scenes, kind of making sure that works the way it's supposed to. These sliders, these editing tools, these capture tools, like, are we seeing what we're expecting to see? Is it objectively good? Is it, does it look terrible right out the gate?
For sure. So what kind of high school, college experiences could you point back to be like, this is helping me with my career right now, with working on those types of things? Any specific like high school classes or activities, or even college classes or activities?
Yeah, I'd say I'll speak to a few things there. I think I was in marching band, and a very regimented kind of marching band, and we had to be there on time. We had to rehearse for 3 hours a day. I had to go home and get my homework done late at night and get back to, so time management was a big factor early on. And I think you guys are all busy. You're all doing a bunch of different things, and you have to like, I would get my work done in class, so I didn't have to do it at home, or, because I knew I had rehearsal later and things like that. And the discipline that comes with a schedule like that, making sure that everything gets done on time, and you're kind of pushing boundaries of what can be done in a day and what can be done in a week. That doesn't change. That gets dialed up in intensity as you get older, and you have to really figure out how to manage priorities and things like that. And the other one I think might surprise you, but I think writing is one of the most fundamentally important things that I learned in high school. Just being able to communicate effectively and concisely, being able to adapt your communication style depending on who you're talking to is a massive thing that I kind of picked up as in my personality, but also just in all the things I was involved in growing up. You can encounter all kinds of different people. It's not just your 5 friends who are exactly like you. You're encountering people from all walks of life, all different experiences. So that's something that's a daily thing for me, just being able to communicate well, articulate my thoughts, and move forward from there, because that's every day we're doing that.
Yeah. I've taken a lot of writing classes as of late, and let me tell you, it's one of those things like you're happy whenever you have it. It kind of stinks while you're going through it, but when you're done, it's oh wow, I can actually communicate and express how I feel about something or what I'm trying to do, and people understand what's happening. So, last kind of question before we dive into some questions that students might have asked. What are the biggest things in maintaining a work life and a personal life at Apple with what you're doing? What are kind of some things that you find important in that situation?
Yeah. I think this is a good question to kind of summarize everything we've talked about. I bring passion and energy to the job every day. I think that matters a lot. If I think you're going to encounter burnout in different ways in your life, and if you're not maintaining work-life balance, that's going to happen. But also, if you're just not happy, you know, it's difficult to talk about something that's like, is the job fulfilling to you? Because you can find fulfillment in all different ways of life. So I wouldn't put the biggest priority on that. But I will say that once, if you can find it, man, it matters a lot. It matters to be fulfilled and happy in your career. So like, you can always change things, right? You're never going to be pigeonholed. You can change if things get different. But I'd say focus is like the next thing. Like when I come to work, I have 8 hours to move a mountain, and I can get very little done in a day, or I could get a ton done in a day. And for me, if I get a lot done, I feel really good about just going home and closing the computer and stepping away from it all. But I think if you're not focused while you're at work, then you have a problem. Now you're going to be deep into the night trying to get your deadlines met, and it's going to be a much different life. So I'm very inspired by those people. You see the ones that even have kids and stuff that work in the same industry as me. They have a different type of drive and engine behind them during the day because they have something to go home to at the end of the day. That's not,
Yeah.
they don't want to deal with all that.
Yeah.
I think communication and like good management also matters a lot. You can't always pick your manager, but like having a manager who understands work-life balance and respects you as an adult and an individual matters a lot. And then I can communicate to her, okay, I'm not getting my deadlines met this week. I need a little help, or so that way you're not hitting Friday and you're running into a wall. You can communicate early and often to kind of help yourself and help the team.
For sure. So, this is kind of a silly question, but working with a product that is so popular nowadays, like that you go home and guess what? You have your iPhone on you. Like anywhere I go, I've got my phone on me and I don't really escape it. Not that you have to always be on it, but it's always with you. Is that kind of weird to work with? Like knowing I work on this product and you might not be able to escape work, some might say. Is that kind of a thing that sits in the back of your head?
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. I think you're always kind of thinking about it. And I think, especially for me, like I'm a photographer, I have a phone in my pocket. I'm taking pictures and like, oh, there's a bug, there's an issue I need to write up, so like it's there, it's present, but I
Yeah.
think we can all use our technology in any way we want. A lot of times it's a distraction. It's something that gets in the way. So like I'm really good at kind of making that less, if I can. It's kind of comes back to the focus thing. It's like, it has its time where I'm sitting on the couch scrolling like we all do, but there's times where I
Yeah.
choose not to. I put it away. I'm focused on what I'm focused on. So yeah, you find that balance. And yeah, there are days where I just want to chuck it. Like, I don't want to see this.
Throw it at the wall. Oh yeah. So it sounds like you're just like the rest of us, It's like, why won't it work? Or
Exactly.
you're just like, it's so good.
Those frustrations for our users because yeah, we all depend on these things. That's what I learned on the retail side. It's like 10 a.m. the store just opened and someone's running. My phone's not working. I have meetings. I have to, it's like it sucks.
Yeah.
Hopefully we
No, for sure.
lessen that as much as possible with the preliminary testing and stuff that we do now.
That's got to be pretty cool though to know that you do work on a product that people do use every single day at the same time. I mean, knowing that you're walking down the street, you see someone working or just on their phone, you're like, I work on that thing. That's got to be a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, it's at concerts and airplanes is the one I noticed it the most. People were like zooming in, doing stuff, swiping through their
Yeah.
photos. I'm always like, yep, that's the feature I worked on. That's a thing. It's very interesting to see. But yeah, it's in the hands of billions of people, not just millions. So that's the thing that kind of I always have to pinch myself on. It's like, wow, this is really crazy. You're really making a difference, and you're doing something that people use every single day.
Yeah. Have you gotten any experience internationally or in different countries? Have you had any of those types of trips?
Like personally, in the like vacations or just with work.
Both with work, personally, something maybe that is experience that'll help your career, or that you've
Yeah.
just kinda had a personal experience.
Yeah, a few things there. I think Apple is a global company, so like there's opportunities every day to talk to different people. I have team members in Cambridge and in Shanghai and different things like that. So it's very fun in that regard. You get to really meet a lot of interesting people in the career. Of course, the people that Apple's hiring are from all different parts of the world too. So I'm exposed to different cultures every single day. Yeah, personally, I love traveling. I've been to like Croatia and Slovenia very recently. Very unique countries you probably didn't even know about, but just beautiful, beautiful places. I think it's really about experiencing a new vista, new beautiful surroundings, but also new beautiful people and different walks of life, different ways of living that really inspire me.
Gotcha. All right. So now I'm going to jump into, excuse me, I'm going to jump into a few questions that some students have had. And this one actually caught my eye right away because I use it all the time. It's AI. Have you started to use AI in the workplace? And if so, how have you guys been doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So um, Apple's definitely on the task, right? There's this is a race, and everyone in tech is talking about AI right now. Uh, I think Apple's not always the first to do things, but they really focus on the quality of it. I think we're really trying to solve the privacy concerns that people have and that usefulness. I think there's a lot of AI popping up. It's like that's not useful at all. Why do I need that? So we're really trying to create things that people really genuinely use and need in their life. And that's really exciting to see. For me personally, there's two worlds here. There's productivity and then there's creativity. So like for me, I have ChatGPT on my phone. I'm using it all the time now. It's like a personal assistant that it's not generating like, hey, write me a paper. It's like, here's my thoughts. Let me make it more concise, or like let me make it more professional or whatever. I'm using that type of writing tools quite often. Being able to do research and really understand like a complex topic in a very simple kind of way. It's all about time. Do I want to spend 8 hours researching this or an hour and really understand the depth of it? So that's something I'm quite passionate about. But on the creativity side, photo editing, all the tools I use, Lightroom Classic, Photoshop, there's a bunch of others that are popping up that are really powerful. So a lot of my workflows that I would spend hours on are now taking minutes. And for me to be able to save time and not like still maintain the same quality that I'm trying to create, but it's just making it easier and more powerful is really exciting for me. So I can get into more details on that if you want. But just yeah, AI is in everything right now, and I'm trying to really find the things that are really useful and meaningful to me, and try to learn those tools. Because some people say, "Oh, it's going to replace this job, that job." I don't think that's really true. I think the professionals in those things need to learn those tools so that they can be ahead of the game. Because it's just going to make us better down the road.
Yeah, no, it's been fun to I'm glad I got to go through school with AI. Not
Mhm.
necessarily because it does the work for you, but especially being, a creative major and having some classes where you have to create surveys. It's nice to be able to not necessarily ask for the ideas itself, but be able to bounce your ideas off of something like AI and be like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm trying to do this. My brain is stuck. Give me some ideas for it. And then it lists out however many. And it's like, as a creative, that
Yep.
helps so much because you do hit these roadblocks where you're like, oh, I don't know what to think about, how to make this idea better, but I'm right on something. So AI to me has always been really kind of fun to play with in that regards and, use it to help extend ideas, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That's a great example of how you're still behind it. There's still Jared, the human, who
Hmm.
has his own ideas and inspirations, but you're using it as like kind of a springboard for a new idea, or like getting past that block. And I think if you look at it that way, like we all have our own professional expertise to apply to things, but it can help. It can definitely help move it along a little quicker.
Yeah, is Apple kind of pushing towards, hey, like use more AI, or do they have a stance on it at all, or are they kind of sending out a message like, hey, we want employers and employees to start using AI, or are they don't really care as long as it's
That's
not creating your work for you?
that's a fun question to ask. It's very difficult because everything we do is secrecy, secrecy, secrecy. We're working on things that just can't get out, right?
Yeah.
So right now it's very difficult. So I'm very excited to see kind of what Apple can create internally. What kind of tools are they going to give us that are just as powerful, but safe and secure for
Yes.
the world that we live in. Yeah.
No, that's really cool. So there you go, guys. If you work for Apple, you might get to know a few more secrets before other people.
A few or 100.
Yeah. Is that hard? Is that hard to know, like, a new feature that might be coming out and you're keeping it from other people and you're like, just wait, they're going to be so excited.
I'm pretty used to it at this point, but it is difficult because it's always right there on the tip of your tongue or even in your back pocket. And you can't, like, you know,
Yeah.
gotta be careful. But it makes it exciting. We always like really look forward to those moments where it is unveiled. It's like, hey, here's that thing we've been working on, blood, sweat, and tears for however long, and we get to see people's reactions and see people embrace it. It was really exciting to see. So we always try to protect that as much as possible.
For sure. All right, we'll go to another question here. This one is important, especially to people that are going into college or, facing the end of high school and they're looking at getting into tech. But what would be some advice that you would give to someone who wants to enter the tech industry?
Yeah. For me, my path, I kind of navigated it in a way that I tried to avoid mathematics and coding as much as possible. And so if you go to get a computer science degree, you're going to be taking all the mathematics, all the different programming courses. And, now I'm kind of at a point, I wish I had kind of done that a little bit differently, just because I do, as a software tester in this moment in time, I don't need to be a programmer. It's a lot more hands-on manual testing. Like I'm a creative photo editor, so I'm able to use this tool as a professional and test it and find its limitations and its bugs. And so I really enjoy the career for that reason, but there's always going to be opportunities to go further, right? So like we're trying to be more efficient, we're trying to be faster, and automation is something that's coming being talked about a lot. Being able to take Python scripts and do what I do manually with my fingers, uh, do it automatically. So we have people at Apple who do this, and I'm definitely going back to school soon and polishing up my programming skills. So I see that this is going to be a thing that's needed in the future. And also, if you have the brain for it, programming, I mean, computer science, it's such a fascinating field. You look at the people that I work with that are actually coding photo editing apps or video capture apps from the ground up. And these are some of the smartest people, and being able to understand that thing, I mean, go for it, embrace it, learn it, figure it out, because it's a fun world. It's exciting. It's like you said, it's something you can learn. It's not too big to tackle. It's just be passionate for it and kind of pursue that if that's what you're interested in.
Well, and it's like what you said earlier. Some of the most important things in a career is communication, and learning how to code and program software is almost like learning another language. I mean, it's it's one of those things. If you're able to communicate with the people you work with, and part of that is through coding, programming, program software, and doing that sort of things, it makes it all the more better and easier for you to develop a career for sure. So, what kind of made you choose this career? Was there anything specific where like it was like this is what I want to do, this is now I know like this pushed me to do that, or what kind of led you to choose it?
Yeah, specifically Apple, I think it was just seeing the path and seeing what could be. And I think, you know, I kind of just thought like, well, why not me? Why can't I be the one who gets this job? And kind of just embracing it and pursuing that and kind of figuring out what needed to go into the blender to make it happen. And I needed the photography skills, I needed my people skills, I needed communication. Like, what do I have in my bucket that is me to,
Mhm.
make this work? And then figuring out to fine tune the things that were kind of lacking. And just a little bit of a calculus to figure out like, I have a dream. How do I get to the dream? Right. And a lot of people, I see a lot of my friends sit down like, wow, I wish I could have done what you did. I still want to do what you did. And they're not really acting. They're just kind of sitting there waiting for someone to offer them a job at Apple Corporates. Like you got to mind the gap.
You almost got to go fill in the gap yourself and be like, hey, I see that I need to go be better at something, or this is how I go maybe start my dream. You just got to go do it. That is the hardest thing sometimes.
And I think like this class is a great place to start, working with people who are experts in like education planning. I think uh, don't just you don't have all the answers yourself. Be okay to figure out, like, have someone else help you with this path. My cousin just got a master's in 5 years. He got a double degree in 5 years because someone told him he could. Like, he found a program that allowed him to take more classes and double up, and great. He did something in 5 years that takes most people 8 years. So it's, there's ways you can kind of find these little cheat codes in education and in life. Really help a lot to get you where you want to go.
For sure. All right, I think I got time for one more question. I think we got about 5-ish minutes here. And you were kind of talking about it just now. Is it important for maybe some students that you see, some students to go straight into the workforce, or maybe just get some experience while they're maybe in college? What would you kind of say in respects to, is it important to go find a job and gain that experience that helped you get to Apple?
It's a great question, and it's interesting to think about. I had so much, I guess for me, the experience I had, whether I chose it or didn't, I was able to use that experience to help me get where I wanted to go. For example, I worked at Lowe's, I was a cashier, I worked at restaurants and things like that. And I use all that kind of customer facing time to kind of help me with the job at Apple, right? Like the experience added got me there. That was at the Apple store, right? And then I used what I learned there with the career experiences and then my outside passions to kind of get me to the next step. So like I think a lot of us will find that you're going to be in situations where you're working at a restaurant, you're doing this or that, and you're like, this is not my forever job, right? And you're going to have to accept that that's temporary, and that's okay. Like, take that job, learn from it, do the best you can at it, and then work with a professional to add the experience that you gained to a resume that can really catapult you to the next level. That's like when you can't fully control the experience you have. But on the other side, think about that dream job, think about that thing you really want, and start taking on roles that kind of help you get there too. You can kind of control that path. If you can choose the jobs you're taking on, you can kind of mold that in a way that makes sense for you. So either both ways, just kind of accepting what you can't control, but also knowing that it all piles up. It all helps you get where you want to go. And it's not like, oh, that was a wasted 2 years. Like, no, there's something you can pull out of that you learned that made you a better professional and a better person.
Mhm. Yeah, no, something I heard the other day is like right now in this time, I'm learning how to work. Like that is definitely a thing. And like you were saying, that might not be a job that you want to do now and forever, but you're learning how to work. You're learning how to apply different skills in different situations, and you never know where that might lead you. Was there any sort of internship maybe that you had done that was like kind of impactful in where you're at now?
Yeah. So I told you the first career experience was in the hardware test engineering side of things. So I had my hands on like all this hardware, and that was really exciting and interesting. But there was also kind of a QA aspect to that role as well. We had like a web UI that was being developed, and that was kind of like the side piece that I was doing in that role. Was testing, doing quality assurance for that website as it was being developed every week. You're clicking on the things, you're finding the bugs, you're figuring out what works, what doesn't work. So that kind of opened my eyes to this whole world of software QA. I thought like, wow, like that's in everything. If you're interested in the Apple Watch, there's software QA for that, or messages, or music, maps, whatever. Fitness, health and fitness, we have like the Apple Fitness world. You can kind of find that passion and then find the software, be a software tester for any of those things. And like once I figured that out at Apple, I was like, wow, this is a big world, and I can definitely find the thing I'm interested in, find the thing that I love the most.
Yeah. But it all started with that first experience. That's what's important, is finding the first experience and then learning what you want to do based off of that one experience. And you find a much bigger world, or you might find it's not for you at all. But it's important to have that first experience. Well, Brandon, we're kind of cutting it close on time. If you got anything you want to say within a minute or so, if you just want to go ahead and say that.
I was really happy to be here. I'm very excited about my story and how it got me where I'm at. And each of you is going to have something just as exciting, just as unique. And it's hard to, you don't have all the answers right now. You're right in the middle of it. You don't have it all figured out yet. But when you look backwards, you're like, wow, I'm really grateful for that opportunity. I'm really grateful for what I learned there. Just take each bit of it, do the best you can at everything you do, and then just try to like find a way to summarize, the things that were most meaningful from each career, from each opportunity, from each internship. You're on a path, you're learning and you're building yourself. So just embrace the journey and don't compare yourself to other people. Someone might do it in 4 years, someone might do it in 8 years. There's no right way to do any of this stuff. And just rest in that and know that it's all going to work out. You're in control of a lot of things, focus on what you can control, what you can, the skills you can learn, you can spend time doing, and find that focus and that motivation in your life, because it's not just going to come automatically, but if you work for it, good things will happen. Just take time and embrace the journey.